Welcome to the Talk with Clads podcast. Your host is Katie Ann, an island girl on a journey with her guests to learn about their backgrounds, businesses, passions, experiences, life lessons, and wins. Come and laugh, cheer, learn, and plan with us. My friend, take some time to come and talk with Clads.
Hello world, welcome to Talk with Clads. My name is Katie Yan and I will be your host for today. We have a special guest joining us via phone. Her name is Cristina Maldonado, and Cristina is an attorney who practices mediation. So Cristina, tell us a little bit about your background and welcome to Talk with Clads.
Thanks, Katie Ann, for having me. Sure, I've been an attorney and a mediator for 10 years now. It's my second career. I have a past life as in international development world, working in Central America and labor issues. And then when I came to Florida, I retooled, went back to law school, but I knew that I wanted to go into dispute resolution because before that, I had a master's in conflict resolution from George Mason University. So that was like AA for lawyers. It was a program that was full of people who had been lawyers like 25 years or so and were looking, for a different way. So I knew that was there. And I'm an unusual person in the sense that I've been doing ADR my entire legal career, because a lot of times people come to it as a second career. So that's how I came to it.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the field of conflict resolution.
It's pretty wide.
In terms of mediation.
Oh, in terms of mediation, sure. The roots of mediation, in the courts at least, they go back to, I think it's 1976. There's a famous conference called the Pound Conference, which I think still takes place today. But there was a guy whose name was Frank Sanders, who was a professor at Harvard University, and he gave this very famous talk called the multi-door courthouse, which the idea was that, well, there's lots of ways to get into court if you have a problem. But at that point in time, really, the trial was like the common way to get out. You really did have to go to trial. And so he sort of posited this idea that you could resolve your disputes in all different kinds of ways, and it kind of opened the world. At that point, they called it ADR, but maybe the A is sort of a misnomer, because these days you're almost like depending on the area, you're between 80 and 90 something percent more likely to settle, and your probability of ending up in trial is substantially lower. So it's really the norm at this point in time.
To settle before going to trial?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. If you imagine here in Florida, there's like 1,000 judges from all the way from the Supreme Court down to county court level, and there's only 1,000 people, and every year there's about 3 million new cases. So they have to go somewhere, and all these different mechanisms for settlement are part of the digestive system that keeps the court from breaking down.
Okay. So what made you choose, law has so many areas. What made you go into, I know you said you had a second career, but what made you want to tap into conflict resolution?
I love the field. I don't think I ever thought about going to grad school. Law school for me was not like a long-term plan that I grew up wanting to do. It sort of happened as the result of relocation. But dispute resolution has always been something I loved. Like, I'm that kid who signed up for peer counseling program in like 6th grade.
Wow.
So it's been something that I've always been interested in.
Okay. So a part of, doing mediation, I'd say some form of conflict management, is that you have to have those difficult conversations between the parties that are involved. So what skills would you say someone needs to have those difficult types of conversation?
That is so true, Katie Ann. The ability to see conflict not just as a barrier, but as an opportunity, I think, is a very important part of the approach. I think if you just see it as a problem, sometimes you might overlook all of the emotional components. Um, the way I can sort of liken it is if you can imagine having to go to a doctor to get bad news, what do you want that doctor to be like, right? You want that person to be compassionate. You want that person to be knowledgeable. You want that person to tell you the information that you need to know and to be able to generate some options for you, but also to let you choose, right? Help you weigh those options but let you make your own final decision and be respectful of that decision. So, um, in mediation, which is all about party self-determination, right? Here are these two people who can't get along to save their life, but they have got to solve their own problem. Like, that's the real challenge of
Yeah.
mediation. And you, as the mediator, you are helping them have those hard conversations with each other and sometimes with themselves.
Okay. So can a party go through the mediation process and not agree, or the issue is still unresolved?
Yes, yes. There's no obligation to settle your case, and the mediator is not allowed to settle it for you. Sometimes people really would like somebody to put a finger on that scale. I think there are mediators out there who do that, in terms of sort of uh, just either because they have a lot of experience, or because they were hired specifically for that sense that they could kind of, come out and be like, in my experience, this is what happens. But um, technically, that's not how the process is supposed to work. Although I acknowledge that there's a hunger for that sometimes. Please save us from ourselves, kind of a dynamic. The court is there ultimately, right, as sort of the tiebreaker, depending on your case. If it's a jury or a judge, depends on the kind of case.
Okay.
But yes, it's out there, and
So
it can get a little sticky sometimes.
yeah, because I'm thinking sometimes that people may be a little bit angry sometimes going into mediation, or they're motivated to come out on top. So egos get involved, emotions get involved. So
Yes.
how do you navigate and remain calm during those processes?
I think you have to. I mean, your obligation. You kind of have to go with the temperament of the room that you have, right? If people are sort of running off ahead of you, you have to do what you can to slow them down. And if people are sort of having trouble making decisions or thinking through, you have to try to help them to kind of catch up a little bit. Um, so yeah, it's, when people are angry like that, they're trying to be heard. Like, I feel like people turn the volume up when they've said the same thing 10 times over and they don't feel like anyone is listening. Sometimes if you just show people that you're listening, that helps. Like, that's enough. That'll shift something at least. If people feel listened to, that's half of it. Um, you know, it but opening a mind that is really, really sort of stuck, or blocked, or somehow believes that there's justice for them at the end of the line too. Sometimes you run into these matters of principle, which is like the mediator as an audience is not enough for this person. They really just do want to go see the judge or the jury and tell their story to that particular audience instead of the other person. So to move them from that state of anger to a place where they're bargaining with the other side more effectively, um, it just, you got to get them into a negotiating spirit. And if they're not in the mood to negotiate, then
You put them
you're
to
going to
the
have to just send them on their way.
Okay. So then will a court send someone back who they go, okay, this is something you've been through mediation, it's not working, and now they've gone to court. Will the court send them back to a mediator, or does it just the final resolve is the court if it was initially sent to the courts?
Well, if it's settled, if the case settled, then the court just sort of signs off on the agreement as long as there's nothing objectionable about it. They just sort of like, well, good job. You did it yourselves and you didn't need us, right? We're just going to make it official. And there's something to be said for that, right? Mediated agreements are followed more often, um, on the whole, than agreements than orders that are imposed. Like, if people don't like the result, they're going to turn around, they're going to appeal. It's going to be very hard to enforce, but a mediation agreement that got created is very durable. And so, but if not, the only thing the court gets from that mediation, they don't get a report or anything like that. They just get a little one piece of paper that says they came, they mediated, there wasn't any agreement. And so everybody has to kind of go in front of the court and start from scratch, and they have to present everything with a lot more formality. And so people don't have that sort of same freedom to just sort of speak and think out loud that they have in mediation. Because usually, if you have a lawyer, you're sitting next to your lawyer, and if you're the person in litigation, you're like a kid. It's like don't speak unless you're spoken to, and make sure you don't say anything that harms your case. So the others, it comes across as lying or self-serving sometimes, right? Because the other side is trying to bust you on something you're
Yeah.
saying, and all those aspects can be very complicated. And then, in terms of the results at trial, usually there's 3 possible outcomes, and 2 out of the 3 are disappointing. One is that you win, which is great. You walk out like Rocky, with your fists up in the air. But the other one is you only do okay. Like, yeah, right. They give you something, but it's not enough to make you whole, and it doesn't taste. It's like not having enough for lunch. You're hungry. You're hungry by the time tea time comes around. And then or you lose and you get hosed. You're stuck.
No one
So,
wants to be hosed.
but everyone overestimates their chances on the whole if they're the litigant. So it's hard to kind of put that up against the reality of how things could go.
Okay. So what motivates you? Because this is conflict, right? You're in continuous conflict day to day, trying to negotiate for the different parties involved. How do you stay motivated, and what motivates you so that you don't take it home, or you still have the passion for what you do?
I really like doing this for a living. I genuinely do. It's a little vulture-y some days, to kind of be there, like, dealing with all of people's problems, but I feel like I can really give them a hand. So it's a very nice and rewarding feeling to help people settle their cases, um, and just get them to look at it with fresh eyes and give it a try. And give it a try. Imagine for a minute how it could be different if this was solved and if you did it yourself, right? Just if you can get people to hold on to that, or to kind of feel like they're done with it. It's such an opportunity to be finished and know exactly what's going to happen. Because if they impasse at mediation, if they leave with no agreement, they walk out the door, they might be really feisty about it if they're sort of like, yeah, I'm going to go get that other person in court. But it's going to take a lot of money to get there. There's no guarantee that end result is going to be any better. Sometimes it is. I'm not a person. I think when I started, Katie, and I thought like everything could be solved, and now I just don't think I think that not only can not everything be solved, but there are things that shouldn't be negotiated away, because making case law is important, and righting certain wrongs is definitely in the public eye, has its value and its place. But for most disputes that people are dealing with, the peace of mind, even if you had to give a little to get there, of knowing exactly what's going to happen, is valuable. There's something to that, even if you quote unquote lose, or slash you're the one having to pay some kind of money. At least you helped shape the terms, and could make some accommodations in some instances, and then you hold up your end of the deal, hopefully, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what contracts are about. And a settlement agreement is a contract. And so you actually follow through.
So, what skill sets do you think that a good or a mediator needs to have, or I should say, top three skills to be
Sure,
successful in his or her role?
sure. I think you need to have a lot of patience. That's, I know that's kind of, you know, sort of a soft skill, quote unquote, right? In terms of a good ability to kind of face the whole array of emotions that people experience. Um, I'm having trouble keeping this to three. The ability to write, to write clear agreements and things of that sort, and to kind of have the legal vocabulary if you're mediating in legal world, to have the legal vocabulary and knowledge to help people formulate solutions if it's a more complicated type of case. Some cases are just looking for a number, but other cases have a lot more complicated terminology. And so they need somebody who's specialized in those cases sometimes. Um, and here in Florida, you actually have to go through training. So you have to go through the whole. Well, it's not required. Let me be clear. It's not required, but it is an opportunity that's out there. And there's around between 5,000 and 6,000 people in the state who are certified in different ways to mediate for the courts.
Okay. And what type of parties are typically involved in the mediation? Is it typically a business, personal, both?
All kinds, really. I mean, I think one of the more common ways that people are likely to end up in mediation might have to do with a divorce, a paternity case, or some kind of small claims, either a credit card case or a insurance claim gone wrong that has to be sent to court to try to get something out of the insurance if you don't agree with what came up then. But basically in Florida, there's sort of a mandate that workman's comp doesn't get mediated formally always. Sometimes it does, not always. Stuff like that. But larger scale business cases also go to mediation. It's built into the system. You get at least one bite at the apple if you're in court.
Okay.
Sometimes two.
Right. So, what's one thing that you wish you knew before you started this journey of being a would you call yourself a mediator or
Mm-hmm.
yeah
I would. It's That's a good question. I'm trying to think of a good answer. I I I think you have to know that I don't think I realized like how much of a sole practitioner I was going to be. Currently, I'm a mediator under the umbrella of one of two of the larger firms in Florida. It's a firm called Upchurch Watson White and Max. I've been with them for 2 years, and it's you're always out there reaching out for business. You really most of these things settle and then they move on. So it's not exactly a repeat customer kind of a base, although you do sort of generate connections with attorneys who are like the recurring characters of the soap opera. You see them often over the years, even if you see one person once, maybe some person a few times, and other people more frequently, depending on how it turns up. So it's a lot of business development. You spend a lot of time marketing, which doesn't seem to be built into the concept, but
yeah
but it's necessary. It's just part of the gig.
yeah like you wouldn't think of business development when you think of mediation,
Yep,
right?
it's an eat what you kill business in that department.
Oh wow. So how long does a mediation like how long does the process itself typically take?
It depends on how complicated the dispute can be. Um, you know, but and honestly, like people fight. Sometimes I've seen people fight just as hard over $500 and $500,000. Like really, it's the same pattern. Um, but because of the money involved in that $500, you're probably only going to get about an hour or two to, to work on that one at all. And on the $500,000 one, they might only have set a pot, they could have set aside, let's just say, anywhere between 4 hours, 8 hours. There's, there's not sort of an infinite amount of time that you get to work on the cases. I've heard of bigger cases going much, much longer, but most of the time you're done in a day or even a half day, depending on what you're working on.
So with COVID, COVID has kind of turned everything upside down. And so I'm sure it has affected mediation. And now we've gone to doing a lot of things virtually.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you handle that process virtually?
That is a very good question. I would say that it changed the practice almost entirely in terms of the sort of where, when, how aspect of things. And I just don't think it's ever going back. Although some people are dying to get back in person. I don't mind going back in person. I've done a few cases over the last couple of years in person, but the default right now seems people are just happy to stay online for this. They're saving the commute and it's easier to schedule and, yada, yada. I mean, people went from, oh my God, we can't do this online to, well, with some difficulties and some learning, maybe we can figure it out to, okay, it's great. We love it. People are very comfortable negotiating from home. Or home office or so for those people, Zoom is a blessing. For those people who kind of think that it makes more sense to kind of hold on to the formalities, and that you want your person a little comfortable but not too comfortable, you want them a little bit uncomfortable so there could be more pressure to kind of get it done. Those are the people who are like, I'm not sure if online works for me. Some of these things are actually turning into combinations of things, like one person in person, one person online. I've had that happen. It's if it's one person in front of a computer, I find it to be very easy. But if you're sort of like shouting through a computer into a conference room full of people and you can't see everybody and microphone issues, and that can be a little challenging. That can get a little challenging. So it depends. It depends on the setup.
So are the clients or parties, are they more receptive to doing mediation virtually?
Yes. Everything went online last year. Everything, 100%.
Oh.
I went for, like 18 months without, I want to say, so what's smart, from March of this year, I don't think I had an in-person case until July.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. For a moment there, it was like, oh my God, can we still do this? And then everybody's kind of looked around. This thing called Zoom. Yes, we can still do this. Okay, great. We're still doing this. So it happened.
Oh, so what tactics? Because I wanted to go back to you said business development, and that kind of stuck out a little bit,
Sure.
right? Because I never thought about mediation being, you're doing business development, but I guess it does make sense where you eat what you kill. So how do you market your business, and like which tactics do you find to be the most successful, or the business that you work for, I should say?
I really would say that marketing broadly to attorneys is my more effective pool of people. Over the years, I think every lawyer has an understanding how people choose you, is important. I think every attorney, nobody's the cup of tea for everybody. I am not the perfect person for every case. Every case is not the perfect case for me. So there are certain things that people might find that I am more effective at or less effective at. Somebody else is more like the right person for this case. So I think every lawyer has sort of a short list of people in their office that they trust, or come to trust as being someone who helps them get results, right? In resolving cases. and moving cases along, because lawyers want to get cases done, parties want to get cases done. People really look forward with good hopes to mediation days, to getting it settled for the most part, I think. But yeah, there's sort of this nudge to show up in good faith and give it a real try, right? And I
Yeah.
think for the most part, people do that. Not everybody. Sometimes you get like what I will refer to as reindeer games, just free discovery or other aspects of it. But yeah, that's part of the process too, right? Um, so yeah, just reaching out to attorneys or people who could need a mediator at some point in time.
Yeah.
And
So you're
so
you're wearing multiple hats.
yes, if you do all different kinds, then yes, you end up sort of in different pools of people at different times.
Yeah, I do find the field to be very interesting because I just personally, a lot of people are afraid of conflict, right? So you have people that they will run right into it, and then you have some that avoid it and pretend like it doesn't, like, oh, no, no. Like conflict, they hear the word conflict and they cringe.
Yes.
And then you have those who just ignore it and pretend like it will go away. But
Yes.
I
I
believe
think
that,
we all do all of those things at different moments,
right?
They're all kind of different strategies and approaches to it.
Like, so do you think it's more situational, like what's going on, what situation you're placed in that you adapt, or
Yeah.
you become, oh, very good, very, very interesting. And
But
yet
I think you're right that there's like
you're,
a tendency that people have, like from it's probably early on, how you felt about it as a kid is how you operate later in life.
yeah, I think my mom was very strong. So for myself and my sister, I don't think we run away from conflict, but that's just
No,
probably something that's just inbred, if that's the perfect word or the good word, the
there's a
good word.
toughness there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely a part of how you were raised.
Yep.
Because I've, if for someone who does not or believe that you can have healthy conflicts at time, when you are faced with someone that typically runs away from it can be very frustrating.
Yes. Come back here.
Let's finish this.
Yes. Well, that's the beauty of productive conflict, is that it ends it, right? If you're capable of doing that and having a good productive discussion, argument, whatever, it can end the whole thing. It can end it terribly or it can end it well, but it ends it.
It ends
So
it. But if you are taught just to ignore it, then it just
mm,
goes on
on and on.
unresolved. It just festers and
Yeah.
festers. So how is mediation different than arbitration?
Mediation is quite different than arbitration. Arbitration, everybody in the US, I think, if you've ever clicked to buy something or bought an electronic or something like that, you've already signed like zillions of arbitration agreements in your life. You just never had to go to them for the most part. A lot of times when people sign like HR manuals and stuff like that, for some of the bigger companies, you're signing agreements to arbitrate. It's a big part of consumer law out there, and it's kind of like private judging, if you will. There's either one person or a panel of three. They're called arbiters, who are going to hear evidence in a format structured basically like a trial, as if it was an elected judge, except that it's a person who's selected and being paid for by the people in the litigation, in the arbitration rather. And so that person has the power to decide that case. And they might issue findings or they might just decide the case and not tell anybody why, depending on the kind of arbitration that you wanted. There's also binding and non-binding arbitration. And non-binding has its uses, because if people don't go by the non-binding recommendation and choose to try it and then do worse, then there's kind of like there's teeth to that. There's a penalty for that. But binding arbitration, it's like, okay, that's what the arbiter said, and that's what's going to happen, and there's very little you can do about those outcomes. They are set in stone. So, talking about finality, arbitration.
Yeah. And then with mediation, there's not that finality as it would in arbitration.
A mediation can end with finality if the parties agree, right? If there's an agreement, it's pretty much done, right? And you can have like partial agreements too, but an arbiter isn't responsible for deciding the whole thing. Basically, you can file in court, and if there's an arbitration clause in that contract, they're going to remove you to arbitration. You're going to get basically kicked out of court and sent to arbitration because contractually you've agreed to it. Arbitration is a creature of contract.
Okay.
Somewhere in there, even if you didn't sign anything, you clicked on something and they said, if you want this, you have to agree that we're gonna arbitrate under these rules and in this place and in this manner. So somewhere in there is that clause. And
Okay.
That's what defines the process.
Okay. All right. So, you're I like to say the negotiator, the mediator that's kind of leading the process. What has been your greatest fear as a mediator, and how do you manage that fear?
Greatest fear. I am not prone to being scared of what happens in there. I am even people get a little rowdy sometimes, but I think if you're like a good referee, like if you watch any kind of sport, if you have a referee who doesn't kind of call out the fouls early on and sort of make that process a clean one, then it becomes a dirty game, right? So you have to have, I think, a certain good level of control. I don't really fear losing it because at this point I think like it's like control without being controlling, right? You're not controlling the outcome, you're controlling the process, and the parties are controlling the outcome. So it's very collaborative that way. And so for mediation, not a lot. Not a lot of concerns. I think at the beginning, just establishing a reputation and building a practice, doing that aspect of things.
Okay, so building a reputation as a mediator, or just for the practice?
As a mediator and the practice as well. It's when people, I think there are more people who would like to do this than who get to do it, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, there's a lot of work out there, but kind of like organizing everything into enough of a flow that would sustain you as a full-time neutral. A lot of people end up doing it as like an additional process that they do. Like they don't do full-time mediation, they do mediation and something else.
And something else. Okay. So how do you keep your skills? How do you sharpen your tool, I would say?
There's requirements for training when you're certified in Florida. So you're taking classes and working on the ethics. I think it's like practice. And I teach as well. So if you ever want to learn something better, teach it.
So. That is true. They say if you want to know how to do it, you train someone on how to do it.
Yes.
And it reinforces the skill sets.
Yes.
So what do you teach?
I'm one of the trainers in the state for circuit civil and family mediation training. Circuit civil is the disputes over $30,000, where nobody's going to jail. Just money.
Well, in mediation, for mediation, it's not criminal, right? It's only business and personal.
That's correct. Although, you could say that all the plea bargaining stuff that goes on is sort of mediation by, it's negotiation. It's the same idea, but there have been places that have tried to open that process. And so I think the Army has like a mediation program and, and disputes and stuff. And I've seen, I've actually heard of certain police departments setting up like community grievance mediations and stuff like that. Civil, again, nobody's freedom on the line, but you do sort of see it attached to other things. The whole restorative justice movement, but the bulk of it is in civil.
Okay. All right. So what's one life lesson that you could share with our listeners about your journey as a mediator? That was something that was unplanned, but it ended up being a very good lesson that you could take away some points from that.
A ver, let me see. I think it helps me put a good balance between what I can affect and what I can't affect. That sometimes you do just have to let it go. It's like the serenity prayer, just help me know the difference between the things I can change and the things I cannot change. Just that it takes wisdom to kind of know the difference and clarity about that, and that's not always obvious right away, I think. I am and the other thing is that a lot of times we're taught to problem solve, right? Find what's wrong with it and fix it. And one of the things I think that mediation has taught me is to find what's working and build on it.
Find what's working and build on it.
Yeah, that's a very practical way to approach mediation.
CLAD's Resources and Consulting values its customers. Our planner Footsteps to My Vision is a 13-month planner that can be used for 5 years. It walks you through SMART goals, SWOT analysis, action planning, and holds you accountable through 3 monthly check-ins. We work only with top quality materials, innovative designs, and verified suppliers, which are guaranteed to deliver to our high expectations, because when it comes to our customer satisfaction, there's no room for compromise. Made with high-quality PU leather and paper planner helps you focus on achieving your goals by giving you a sense of personal and professional satisfaction. Some of the amazing features of this product: Vision Board Planner, luxury pen, 8GB USB flash drive, wireless mouse, ultra-elegant packaging box, available in 5 stunning colors: black, red, gold, pink, navy blue. Material: PU leather. 13-month planner. Elastic band for easy handling. Our Footsteps to My Vision is available at Amazon, Facebook, Instagram, our website, and at Walmart. You may also follow us at www.cladsresources.com, Instagram, Clads Resources, Facebook, www.facebook.com/cladsresources/.
You're listening to Talk with Clads. Find more resources online at cladsresources.com. Now back to the show with your host, Katie Ann.
You're not stuck relitigating the past, if you will. You're spending your time productively trying to figure out where you're going to go. So, none of the beating yourself up over this or that. We're just going to,
Just
stop
keep
pointing fingers at each other, hold up the mirror at ourselves, and try to move on.
That's actually really good advice, and really we can do that in all areas of our lives.
You asked for a life lesson. That's the best one I can think of. Actually, one of the, I feel like mediators, you're sort of stuck with a lot of very corny lines in this world, but they're not any less true. There's the one lady who taught me. She used to work at the Palm Beach County Courthouse. Her name was Laverne Mosley, and she probably mediated 25,000 cases. She was there until she retired. She was a non-attorney mediator, and she was just really really, really gifted. And her line was always like, you got to look at it through the windshield and not in the rearview mirror.
Oh, that's a
And
good
I
one.
always, I learned that lesson early, and I've tried to carry it on and share it.
Oh, that's really a good one. And so speaking about her,
Mhm.
what three or who are the three people who have been the most influential to you along your career path?
Hmm. Um, I had the benefit of landing in a place where I got to practice with a lot of people at the beginning, because I was part of the department at the courthouse in Palm Beach County when I first started. And I think of it as like a clerkship, you know. Um, I learned so much from all the people who were there, and there were so many cases. I just got to just try stuff and see if it worked or didn't work, and you know, you know, learn from those experiences and have somebody right there to ask if I had my questions. So that was a very special experience for me, at least. And Bill Moreno was the director then, and um, um, and Laverne worked there as well. There was a whole department of people there who Lourdes Castillo, actually, who mediates out in Bellevue right now, still with the department. And Danny Hoffling, who's the director right now. I just learned a lot from all of the people who were in there doing that at that point in time. And the different trainers that I went through all kind of left their stamp on me. Were several people along the way. Perry Itkin and Eleanor Robbins, Susan Dubo, David Wolfenson. Um, Several retired at this point.
Yeah.
but
But so, what are some of the things that you learned from them? I heard from Laverne.
Well, you heard Laverne's windshield explanation. There's a set of ethical rules that govern court-ordered mediation, and it's think Florida actually is one of the states in the U.S. that has very good mediator training. Like, we are a model nationwide as far as what we offer. And the professional rules and the ethical rules are a really important part of that. They've been around since sort of the mid-90s, and it's really helpful to have that guidance, because when you're practicing, there's always gray kinds of situations, like the example that we were talking about earlier about, do you give advice or do you give an opinion? And the rules say no, right? So there's a lot of bright lines there that you can kind of do that, but that doesn't mean that people don't turn around and ask you, like, so what would you do if
Yeah.
this is your case, right? Or you're sitting there going, you're neutral, and people will be like, well, you're a woman, so you're going to agree with me, right? Or so you're this, or people always kind of will try to sort of put an arm around you, or everybody wants you on their side, right?
Right.
And so you have to make people feel supported, but without losing your spot, your neutrality and your impartiality. You don't want to get hooked there on some final outcome or some result. It's got to be theirs, even if you are helping them come up with solutions. It's how to do things ethically,
Right.
even in a complicated situation.
Right. Ethically in a complicated situation.
Yeah.
Right. And if we mediation 101 for the workplace.
Right? Where are my boundaries? It's nice to have them that clear in that respect.
Yeah, that's a great way. So I like to ask this question of all my guests. Is there a question that I did not ask you that you would have liked me to ask you?
Is there a question that you didn't ask? I love your questions. They've been wonderful. So you got me on something I love to talk about. So it's
Yes,
not hard.
I was very excited because I'm like, oh my God, this is what I'm doing now. So
Yes,
great to
I'm so
hear.
glad that there's that connection.
Yes, listen, I almost ripped out the textbook, but
I'm a book nerd, so I'll go with books. How about that?
Yeah.
Any good books on the subject?
Yeah.
I there's a couple of how about you? Like, just out of curiosity, what are you reading in conflict resolution world that you're enjoying at the moment?
So for the most part, we're focusing on handling difficult conversations
Mm-hmm.
right now. Like, it's not called the art of difficult conversations. It's probably literally just called difficult conversations. It's a lot of books, Chris. I was very surprised at the number of books that we have to read within one semester. It was a little bit overwhelming, I would say,
A
when the
book
book
a week, which is how
when
you
the
gonna do
book
that?
yeah, when the books start coming in. But the one that I feel like I use the most, or get the most from, is having those difficult conversations, being able to identify the type of conversation that you're having, and because once you can identify the type of conversation that you're having, then you know how to navigate it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so that's been by far my favorite so far. That and that's just because I'm like, okay, in my day to day at work, I'm using it in any conversation can be a difficult conversation.
Yes.
And so to hear, like, you're on that path where you're having those types of conversations, and mediation, oh my God, feelings are involved. I've been through mediation. I know my feelings were heavily involved, and the person that did it was very patient, and she made you feel like, she was listening to you regardless of what she felt, and she did it for both sides. So I'm like, I've gone through it. I respect it. I'm doing it right now with work and
Yes.
personal life.
Yes.
And so it's very an interesting topic, and one that I was excited to have you come and discuss.
That's
The
amazing.
art of mediation.
That's amazing. I'm a lot of people come to it from an experience with the process and go, wow, that's really powerful. What a powerful process, right? It's I'm not sure people feel the same way about arbitration. In the sense that it's seen sometimes as being like one-sided.
Yeah.
It's viewed as sort of benefiting the larger entity. But in mediation, even if the power is imbalanced or the feelings are hot, you can do it yourself, right? You can
Right. But
have
how do you
say.
handle, like, on a global scale? Because that's
Hmm.
one part that I want to understand a little bit more is mediation, or the art of mediation, is a lot of it is negotiation. How does that, have you ever had to do that on a global scale?
On a global scale, I've been mediating mostly in the context of the Florida court system. So, um, I think I came out of grad school in Washington, D.C. So, graduating, I didn't know I was going to end up doing this. I, you know, I thought I would probably end up doing sort of international conflict resolution work, frankly. That's what I thought I was going to grad school for. Um, when because that's what I used to do. And then I sort of came down to be closer to family and got married and reproduced and sort of, reevaluated things.
Life
So
happened.
life happened, yes. So it's still a little bit of a contrast, the past life and the present life in that respect. But I mean, um, I actually, with your sister, we should clarify. I went to law school with your sister. This is how we know each other.
Yes.
And the two of us have kids about the same age.
Same
Um,
age. I can't believe
yes.
he's so big.
My son loves your son too, your older one. So, so the two of us sort of had that interest in all the international stuff, and we ended up in New York, sort of following the United Nations
Yes,
at
I
one
forgot
point
that
in
she
time.
wanted to do international business.
That's how we got to know each other better, because we were both in that program. Um, and yeah, I thought that I was going to end up doing that kind of work at one point in time, but it's sort of a narrow little window globally. and you have to be willing to uproot your life all the time. And that's actually how I grew up. And so I think I sort of looked at one point when it sort of was like this or that, I was like, well, I think I'm gonna stay closer to family instead. So I kind of, left that and still doing it on a smaller scale.
Doing it. So do you get a little twinge like, oh, I wonder if?
Some days I'm like a big news nerd and stuff like that. So I like following all of that. Maybe one day. But I don't. It's hard to kind of just jump in, and without any kind of context. And in my case now, I think the context is the legal system. Actually, weirdly enough, I had like one contact before with ADR, with dispute resolution, because I worked in projects in Central America, and one of the pieces had to do with ADR in Guatemala and labor related issues. And in that place and space, people always just wanted to go to the judge because they felt that anything in mediation was just going to let them they were just going to be bargaining away what they were entitled to. That was the perception, was that it was like, this is something that we don't want to do, because if we go to the judge, we'll get justice. And if we go here, we're just going to end up giving something up because we're outgunned. And I've always sort of kept that in the back of my head, about how people can feel about something, if it's fair or not, or, fair is like the F word, it's like, it's such a real and important concept, but it's so driven by perception too. Like what one person thinks is fair, like you can, like, I made a fair offer, right? Don't you think that's fair? And the other side's like, boom, no, how dare they insult me this way?
Yeah.
It's really perception driven.
That it is. I mean, yeah. And that's based on my experience, not on a global scale though. I think, but on a global scale, I would think that's it. It's more magnified.
Yes.
Because
and on a global scale, there's no judge or jury at the end of the line. Like there might be, maybe, but most of the time it's like, what, an election? Just some kind of giant expression of popular will. And hard to,
yeah.
Once you get past the court system, there's not that many of those lines.
Oh, well, it has been an absolute pleasure
Likewise.
speaking with you. I'm so excited that you came on. I know we've been kind of missing each other on this podcast, so I was so happy to connect, and thank you for being so flexible and just saying, hey, I can do it via phone.
Same, Katie Ann. It's a pleasure, and I'm really excited for you with your podcast. This is just it's such a commitment and an accomplishment, and congratulations for doing this.
Oh,
how cool.
Thank you. I absolutely love it. I love just having our listeners learn different topics and walk with everyone through their journey, because sometimes your journey helps to inspire someone else's journey, awesome. or take away any type of hesitation, or it's not that bad. You may, sometimes we talk ourselves out of stuff, and so to listen to someone who is an expert in their field, or someone who's an entrepreneur, then it's like, oh, okay, so I'm not the only one that think about this. I'm not the only one that's going through this, And so if the podcast can be a tool for that, I'm happy to do it. That's one thing I'm passionate about.
Love it.
Well, thank you for joining us, and everyone, thank you for taking some time to talk with Clads. Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Clads Resources and online at www.cladsresources.com. Our planner, Footsteps to My Vision, is also located on our website or on Facebook, Instagram, or Amazon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, keep creating your footpath to your vision.